I have seen this that Soldelpa has been campaigning that they will increase the wages rate to $4 and NFP to $5, PDP to $4, and some other parties. And why this government, the Fiji First government, just increased by $2.82 to $2.68.
Okay, thank you. Let me tell you, minimum wage that they're talking about is for unskilled work, right? There are minimum wages for different professions. So if you work as a waiter or waitress, your minimum wage is about $3.40 or $3.50. If you work as a boiler maker, your minimum wage is $6 or $7. There are 10 different sectors of employment. They all have their different minimum wage. People are getting paid, electricians are getting paid in Suva about $12, $13 an hour. Because that's what the market dictates. So different professions have different minimum wage. This minimum wage that you're talking about is for what we call unskilled workforce. And this is, there never used to be a minimum wage for unskilled workforce until the Bainimarama government introduced it. The others had the minimum wage, you know, the waiters, waitresses, security guards, etc. But there was unskilled workforce did not have a minimum wage. So we decided to introduce that at $2 an hour a few years ago, in 2014. To, you know, essentially start the minimum wage culture for unskilled workforce. What is unskilled workforce? Some of you have what they call, unfortunately in Fiji, house girls. It's considered to be unskilled workforce. Somebody comes to your house and say, bro, can I cut the grass around your house? Pay me some money. That's unskilled workforce. Very few people fall in the minimum wage category. Most people fall in the other different professions. So it was $2. Then we did a review, it went up to $2.32. Then it's gone up to $2.68. Now, what we are saying, we are not saying it cannot be increased. But what we are saying, there needs to be a proper study done. See, when we consider minimum wage, you have to look at other things. Before in Fiji, before 2014, you had to pay your own school fees. Your parents had to. If your parents had to send you to school, they had to pay your bus fare. You did not get free textbooks. You did not get free milk in class 1. The unit cost of electricity is 34 cents a unit. If you earn less than $30,000, we pay 50% on your behalf. If you're connected to water, we give you 90,000 liters of water free a year. That's what you call social wages. So when you factor in wage increases, you have to take that into consideration. The professor who went around doing the study, he's actually made an emphatic statement on that. Many countries, for example, if you go, they don't pay any of these things for you. You have to fork it out of your own pocket. So you have to take that into account. What we've said, we need to do a proper study. It's election time. I can come and say, yeah, don't worry, we'll increase it to $5. But think of the implication. Assuming that you are an unskilled worker, right? And we come along and say, okay, we make it $5. But a person who's a skilled worker, say a boiler maker, who's had to go and get a certificate for 2 years, minimum wage is say $6. He'll say, hey, this guy is unskilled. He only comes and cuts grass, you're paying him $5 an hour. I spent 18 months or 2 years getting a certificate, why should I stay at $6? I want mine to go to $12. That will be the effect of it. You double minimum wage, everybody else that's on a different wage will also want an increase. What will that do for you? Next time you go and buy the tin fish from the shop, the price of tin fish will go up. Why? Because the shopkeeper will say, now the guy who stocks the shelf, I have to pay him, I have to double his salary. The lady at the cash register who's taking the money from you, I now have to pay her double the salary. No businessman or woman will going to pay the additional salary from their pocket. They'll charge you for it. They'll pass on the cost. That's the rippling, that's the effect of it. So what we are saying is that you don't, we are not saying it cannot be increased, but we have to make sure that we do it in such a manner it does not have an inflationary impact. There's something like 130,000 people in Fiji who are self-employed, right? The person who sells vegetables on the roadside, who sells the boo on the roadside. If you increase minimum wage, they're not going to pay themselves more money, that's their money. But when they go to the shop, because the salaries of everybody else has increased, they'll have to pay more money from their own pocket. Linda Tambuya from Sodelpa at a lecture at USP, when she was talking about $4 an hour, she said, oh yeah, there may be some effect on small businesses. Government can subsidize them. How are you going to subsidize it? Some guy who runs a mechanic shop, he employs 2 or 3 people. How are you going to subsidize him because he's paid a higher salary? There's no formula they've given. The person who's a cane farmer, the cane cutters. As it is, it's hard to find cane cutters. We're using prisoners. We're paying prisoners money to go and cut cane. When a cane cutter goes to a cane farmer, the cane farmer has to pay for his food, has to give them housing, pay for the grog. That's what they have to do. Then on top of that, you pay them their wages. Now if they have to double it, these people who are saying we'll give $100 a ton, what will the cost of production for the cane? You see, you have to take that into account. It's very attractive to say, oh, $4 or $5 an hour. But it does not apply to most people. It only applies for those unskilled workers. And you also have to take into account the social wages. So that's our position. What we are saying is announced in the budget, it's gone up to $268 an hour. We will now do a thorough review of it, do a study, and what we've said, we need to have regular salary reviews, regular reviews. Don't just do it whenever there's an election or whatever. We must probably do it every 2 or 3 years, take CPI into consideration, inflation, blah, 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 and then we do a general review, and not just for unskilled workers, but also everybody else. You have at the moment the security guards, the minimum wage is about $3.20, $3.30 an hour. Now you want to say, the person who comes and cuts the grass at your house, we should be paid $5 an hour. The security guard will say, hey, I have to apply for a license. Why should I get $3.32 an hour when the unskilled worker is getting $5? I want mine to go to $6, $7 an hour. A lady who's working, assuming she's earning $6 an hour, working somewhere. She's got a baby. Now, most house girls in Fiji, a lot of them are live-ins, right? They live in your house. You don't charge them rent. They eat your breakfast, they eat the lunch, they eat the dinner. You don't charge them money for that. Now, if tomorrow you say you have to pay them $5 an hour, the lady who's got this house girl to look after the baby, she's earning $6 an hour. What do you think she'll do? She said, I might as well stay home. She said, out of my $6, $5 will go to her. Plus I'm giving her food, I'm giving her accommodation. I've known a few people, and I lived in Australia for a few years. There's one particular family I knew. It was very rare. Like you go to a place like Australia, very rare to have somebody come and clean their house. Very rare, it's very expensive. There's one family I knew, when the lady used to come to work, she used to bring her own lunch. But she used to get paid, over $30 an hour. That's why nobody can afford cleaners in their houses in Australia. A lot of the people who migrated from Fiji, they go to Australia, nobody has a house girl. Only in Fiji they have a house girl. So you have to look at the overall impact of it. It's sustainability. Because you can lose jobs. If you don't control it, you lose jobs. Look at Australia now. Because the cost of things have gone up so significantly, they've lost so many of their jobs to the Asian countries. So many jobs have gone. So you have to look at the social impact of it.
First of all, I would like to thank the government for taking our views for last year's budget, and we can see the changes that bus shelter has been made. Now I would like to request if a hump and zebra crossing could be made so that our students' safety is not compromised. Secondly, could you please state us with any contributing factors for TELS not paying graduate teachers training program for our university only?
Sorry, I didn't get your second question.
Could you please state us with any contributing factors for TELS not paying graduate teachers training program for our university?
Can you put it simply? What do you mean? Don't ask the question like this. ask me a straight question. What is your question? You're not getting paid TELs for graduate students,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So you're doing postgraduate studies.
No, say for our university, if you want to do education,
Yes.
then you will be paid for only 3 years. And
Yeah.
for education unit, you are not paid by the TELs. So that's my,
You don't get TELs if you study education?
yes,
Not at all?
not at all.
Why?
So that's what I'm asking.
No,
you,
but
sir.
I want to ask you, you must know why.
Because TELs is saying that it's a double degree for our university.
I don't know, I'll have to find out what the story is. I don't have the answer. TSLB is a separate board, I can find out, give your details to our staff, we'll find out. Okay? Thanks. Is somebody there at the back?
I'd like to jog your memory back. 4 years ago, we met at the market, at the Lautoka market. You were there. You were shaking everybody's hand, so I just came up and shook your hand. And then I asked you for something. That was when I started my studies. There was this criteria with TELS. The criteria was you had to start education from 2012 and be eligible for TELS scholarship. Currently, I'm at the end of my tenure as a student. I'm an application development student here at the university. Still, the criteria still applies to me, and I do not have a scholarship with TELS yet, but I would like a scholarship with TELS. According to that criteria, I couldn't get it. So I got in touch with you, and then I didn't have a reply. I got in touch with Mr. Mahendra Reddy. I didn't have a reply. I went to Miss Chilila something, who is Fiji.
Chilila Kumar.
Yes, Miss Chilila, and still I didn't have a reply.
Because you don't qualify.
Why don't I qualify?
Because the law is such. The law is that the TEL started in 2013,
Yes.
14, you started.
So there are vocational students who have never went up to Form 4. I went up to Form 6 and I did a diploma in applied computing. I finished that and I'm currently working as a security guard during the night and I'm studying day. But currently I'm the only person in my family who's ever went up to university. And my wage pay right now is below the 20,000 wage pay capita.
Yeah.
So why don't I apply?
Because the law was made, we do not have retrospective application. We cannot go back in time.
Why couldn't you go back in time?
Because there's thousands of people like that. And we have to have the money to do that. It's like, for example, I'll give you an example. Like we've done this thing with the babies, like $1,000 for the babies. Were you here when I talked about the babies? No.
I've heard of what's happening to the babies.
I did the presentation. If you hear from the beginning, you would have heard that from the 1st of August, any mother that gives birth to a baby will get paid $1,000 if they earn less than $30,000 a year, right? Open an account. But we've had people who've come to us and said, my baby was born in the month of June. My baby was born in the month of July. We can't give it to them because the policy and the money allocated started from the 1st of August. If we were, for example, to say to a baby and a mother and make the exception, say, okay, you know, you got the baby on the 30th of July, we'll give it to you. Then I'll get somebody coming from January saying, you gave it to her, how come you're not giving it to me? Then we'll get somebody from 2016, 2014, 2015 say, give us $1,000 too. Where will it end?
I'm sorry, sir. This is a totally different scenario. Those are babies coming out of a vagina. This is me trying to get an education.
No, it's not a different scenario. It's the same thing. You have to understand how budgets work. When we set in place a policy, right? Please try and understand this, because I don't want to have an argument with you. I'm trying to explain it to you. No, I'm trying to explain to you. When we decide a policy, it must have a commencement date. When it has a commencement date, if it's going forward, then we can budget for it. We can budget for it. If we don't have a commencement date and we allow people to come in from before the budget date, how far back do you go? We won't have money, otherwise we'll end up spending all our money. We can't make an exception just for you. There are many people like you. So every policy must have a commencement date. And we cannot go retrospectively because that's you managing the funds. We can't do that.
Sir, this is to request to increase the grant amount for the university so that we could improvise on that to better our teaching and learning capacity, such as our university IT lab, and raise the bar in terms quality output from our students going into the workforce. Increase the grant will enable the unit to fully reach its potential by being more innovative and up to par with modern learning capacity.
We've just increased your grant from 3 million to 4 million.
Say, but our university always gives us a reply that we haven't received a grant. And if you can take
Well, they're not telling you the truth. Every university gets a grant. All the funds are disbursed. We give them on a quarterly basis. Quarterly basis, the grants, we give it every quarter. So you got $4 million this year. You're getting $4 million, 4.2, 4.02, I think, and then you'll get that on a quarterly basis.
But since since March 23rd, we have requested for our IT lab to be upgraded. Till now, it's not upgraded.
That's
And
not our
all
fault.
Yeah, but the university is
You
saying
are a
that
private university. You are privately owned. We still give you a grant because we recognize the role that this university plays. Your university now does not have the problem of collecting your fees. We pay your fees for you. Before TELS was introduced, your university was struggling to get fees. In fact, I was stopped the other day by this father of a student from this school who's already finished his degree. He could not get TELS because he did it before TELS started. They're still not giving him his degree because they still want him to pay the university fees. That's what was the situation before. Now, they get all their fees paid. So they got the money there. Plus, we've increased your grant to $4 million. You need to have better accountability from your university, not from us.
So how this issue can be solved? Sir?
You need to talk to university, you need to highlight it publicly, hopefully it'll come out in the press. Yes, you need to tell the media is here, you can tell them that. In the same way we had FNU students raise with us that some of their courses, the lecturers who were teaching them did not have the right qualifications. So we want that highlighted. And that's very important. And I believe that this university needs more accountability. There needs to be better audit of your funds. Most definitely. You don't have a VC at the moment. It's a problem. You need a VC. So you know, council needs to run well. So I assume you have student representation, you need to do that. Last year you received $3 million from us. This year you're getting 4.2 million, $1.2 million more. Please.
So thank you very much for the presentation about on the topic the debt. But my question this afternoon is, can we lease the water just like we are leasing the land? Can we lease water just like leasing land? Like
Can you lease water?
Yes.
What do you mean lease water?
Like we are leasing land.
Yeah.
Can we apply it same to water lease?
What kind of water? Underground water or foreshore water? What are you talking about? What kind of water are you talking about?
Like we have a like scenario, we have the dam. Can the Itoke people lease the water in the dam? Like
They
we
have,
are lease.
which dam are you talking about?
So I'm talking about Waturu one.
Waturu dam. There is a certain amount of the money that FEA is going to use some of the water for electricity generation purposes. And they're going to pay a particular royalty on the usage of that water for generation of electricity. But that they're no longer using that because that system is no longer working. You know, the system that they used to generate electricity. Kamal, that's correct, right? They're no longer using that. But for Waturu Dam itself, there's a particular lease that's been paid for that. Lease amount for Waturu Dam. But they were going to, when they at one stage, EFL, or FEA as it was called before, was going to use the same water for drinking, going to use that to generate electricity, for which FEA was going to pay a royalty on that. But that no longer is being used for generation of electricity because there's something wrong with the system. So that's what's happening. In respect of Monasavu, they actually do pay them, apart from the land lease, they also pay them a royalty when they generate electricity. They do that. There are 3 types of payments they make to the landowners in Monasavu.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Last question for me.
Can you hold the mic closer, please?
Okay. Will you win the next election?
Well, sorry? I can answer that question in many ways. If you look at the poll results that comes out on a weekly basis, it would look like we'll have a big margin if you look at the poll results. So if you're looking at those results, yes. But at the end of the day, I cannot say anything about that. It's not right. I'm here as Minister of Economy. When we start campaigning, then you can ask us the question. You know, one thing I've tried to highlight to you, if you look at, I'll give you an example. If you look at the economy of Australia, or what you call deep wealth, a lot of these countries have deep wealth. In other words, okay, I'll explain. Deep wealth is in the sense that they have a lot of fundamentals in place that has given them a very solid foundation for the economy. Very solid foundation. If you look at Australia post-World War II, that's when Australia kind of took off. They built this massive, what they call the snowy mountain hydro dam systems. You had multinational companies coming into Australia post-World War II. And that created, you know, after World War II, you had a lot of Australians beginning to own their own homes. You know, what they call the suburbia. House, you know, a piece of land. That's when increase in car ownership increased, the rate of ownership increased significantly. So the fundamentals was in place. You had a government in place for 20 years when all of that happened. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is that the market, human beings or people living in that country, overseas companies, people who invest, felt a lot of confidence in that period because there was consistency in policies. When there is consistency in policies and a constant policy to try to review, improve upon policies, that's when you can get real growth. I'm giving you a clue when I'm saying that. That's precisely the same thing that can happen in Fiji. You know how I pointed out to you about 9 years of consecutive growth. It's over here. Is it here? No, at the back. Here. You see, our wealth as a country has doubled from 2008 to 2018. In 10 years, it's doubled. Look at over here. Look at over here. In such a short period of time, it's doubled, which has given us this unemployment rate. Can you imagine if we continue to grow like this for the next 15 years, 20 years, consistency in policies, what it will do to this line? This line will continue to come down. This green line will continue to go up. You know, this Lautoka Bar private hospital, our key objective of doing this is that so if you get very ill, you don't have to go overseas for treatment. Everything can be done in Fiji. What's the effect of that? It means our money does not go overseas, it stays in Fiji. So our foreign reserves goes up or does not come down. But it also means this. A few years ago, I was Minister for Tourism. I had so many Japanese companies coming in and saying to us, we want to set up retirement villages in Fiji. You know, in Japan, most of the people are very old. You go to a supermarket in Japan, you'll have an 80-year-old packing your groceries for you. Security guards are 75 years old. Car parking lots, attendants are 75, 85 years old. It's a very aging population. Now when they retire, they like to have retirement villages. So they'll come and set up what they call retirement villages. So when it's very cold in Japan, they'll come and spend 6 months here. The reason why they're not doing that at the moment is because if they have a heart attack, there's no hospital that can look after them. But if you have a world-class, internationally certified hospital, they'll immediately come and set up retirement villages. What will that mean for us? It means when they come, they build. When they build, it creates jobs. They need nurses to look after them. It creates employment. They'll spend money, they'll go to the market, they go to the supermarket, they buy things. When they buy things, they pay VAT. When they pay VAT, we get more money, we build more schools, more universities, maybe give a university a bit more grant. That's how it works. So you see, what we are trying to do as a government, we're trying to put in place policies that will give what we call a multiplier effect of the economy. This one company, I'll not name them, you probably know the company. They decided to have a large gathering of all the top executives in the world. They're going to bring in about 2,000 to 3,000 people. But because these people are very highly paid, they came, they do a reconnaissance. They come and check out the place first. They like the resort, wonderful people, blah, 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 but they check for everything. They check the distance from the airport to the resort. Then the next thing they check for is medical services, because what if one of the executives gets ill? So they went to Lautoka Hospital, they went to Nandi Hospital, they said, thank you very much, we're going to some other country. So we missed out on those 3,000 people coming to Fiji. But guess what, we missed out even more? Them telling other people, go to Fiji. You see? So you see, all these countries like Singapore, like Mauritius, that's how they've grown. Singapore, the size of Singapore is 720 or 750 square kilometers. The size of Tavuni is 420 square kilometers. Right, that's the size. But Singapore, they refine oil. They don't produce a single ounce of oil. But they buy crude oil, they refine it, we go and buy it from them. So they're very clever about it. In Vanuatu, the airport, I don't know how many have been to Vanuatu. When they build the runway, it's been built between the bend of a river. They did not use their brains when they built it. So now when we have lengthened the runway, we can't do it. But guess what? On the other side of the river, there's flat land as far as your eyes can see. They should have built the runway there, because they should think 20 years ahead. They should think, one day this place will grow, one day this 10-seater plane will become a 100-seater plane. They did not think about that. The Singaporeans, they thought about that 50, 60 years. They think 50, 60 years ahead. We had this person who did the 87 coup, got rid of development plans. We now got a 20-year plan, at least. So you see, these are the things that we have to think strategically. This $1,000 we're giving for the babies, we are saving money too from that. People think, oh, they're giving $1,000. That means we don't have to send the birthdays and marriages team out to go and get people who have not registered. They'll only automatically register. So we're saving ourselves money. We set up BDM offices in every single town and city in Fiji now. Make it easier for you. Please register, we have the data. When we have the data, we can do better planning. When we do better planning, we can have more economic output. If you ask every single Fijian, everybody in this room, what do they want? You want a job? You want to have a reasonable income? You want to have a good lifestyle? You want to enjoy your life? You have the basic amenities should be at your fingertips. You want to grow as an individual. That should be everybody's objective. That's what we need to do. Why are we doing TELS and free education? It's costing us lots of money. Because we're positioning ourselves. You see, that economic growth that we're having is not going to happen if most of the people in Fiji aren't educated? If they're not educated, how will we grow? If everybody is educated at different skill sets, we can grow. So we're investing in a human, what we call a human capital. It's very important. See, most of the politicians, like I said, they're not talking about high schools and primary schools. They're only talking about universities because you people vote. Secondary school students don't vote. Primary school students don't vote. I'm more interested in high schools, actually. University is good too. You already got the facilities. There's so many schools without a science lab. We're giving the scholarship for teachers because there's a shortage of teachers. None of these political parties are talking about teachers and qualifications. They're doing the union thing. In 4 or 5 years' time, if we don't arrest this problem about shortage of teachers in math, science, physics, what will happen to the generation of kids that will come out of high school? We won't be able to compete. That's what we're doing. We have to think strategically. We're doing a 4-lane road beginning next year between Nandi and Lautoka. Nandi and Lautoka is becoming like Suva and Nosori. The moment you do that, obviously the value of the land goes up. We have set aside $12 million in the budget to help Itauke people develop their land. They're doing one up here on the hill, in Vundavi on top. One down in Sawani, one in Warampitia. You see, Itauke people are asset rich. Some people say asset rich but cash poor. They own 91% of all the land. But a lot of their land is underutilized. What we've come along and said, you tell us where you want, you sort out your arrangements, we'll come and develop it for you. We put the roads, we put the water, we put the electricity. So you lease the land yourself, you take the cream. Right? So they get money. But it also means people can have access to the land. So somebody got security of lease, they'll go and build on it. They go to the bank, they mortgage the land, they build something nice. They set up industries, they set up homes. Everybody benefits. So you've got to think strategically that way. But over here, people say, oh, you know, these people are going to take over your land, they're probably going to do that. It's all protected. Constitution guarantees that. Prior to 2014, all this video was being circulated. You vote for Beni Marama, the Kendia will take over. Say that. Now there's a Muslim going to take over. Nobody's taking over anybody. The Constitution is there to protect them. They said that before 2014. Has it happened? No. Can it happen? No. Legally there's protection. What we need to focus on is the economy. All the protections are given, legal protections. We just need to be focused as a country because we need to be in a different space. We are getting there, we need to further there. So consistency in policy is very, very important. You guys are going to be the leaders very soon. All sorts of leaders, not just political leaders, but in your business community, in your communities. Some of you may become politicians, who knows? But we have to make sure that we educate you so you become good leaders, not some slack fella. Don't make good decisions. Okay, if there's no further questions, ladies and gentlemen, there's one man there.
So I must say that the current government, one of the most organized government in the history of the country, in fact the planning department and all. This was one of my cousins back in Sydney, that's the direct comment from him. I'd like to take you back to the health services side, besides the universities and things. In fact, the current government hasn't left much for other parties, much room for them to nab the current government saying whether failed or not. But sir, you mentioned that the government will partner with some private sectors trying to maintain the hospitals, the health services. And you've also mentioned that FNPF will be involved. So would you like to elaborate on how exactly, is it just property or is the government trying to keep the money back in the country? Would you like to elaborate a bit more on that, sir?
Okay. The way it's going to work is this, to put it simply, is that Lautoka and Bar hospitals will be managed by a company that will be owned by FNPF and a medical services provider. And we will give Lautoka and Ba Hospital on a concession to them. Concession to them means we don't transfer them the property, but they simply use the property to provide medical services. For them to be able to get that concession, there are certain conditions we have laid, as I highlighted. They must provide 24/7 open heart surgery services, must have chemotherapy, oncology, must within a specified period of time build a new wing at Lautoka Hospital, provide all those kind of services. And of course we will pay them to do that. We will pay them to do that. That's how it's going to work. They will have to invest in infrastructure, building the new wing. They'll have to maintain the infrastructure at a particular level and standard. There's a JIC certification, there's an international hospital certification level required. As I was mentioning to you about retirement villages, if it's got international certification, you might find Australians and Kiwis coming here to do their surgeries here, because the cost will be cheaper for them to come here. And after they do the surgery, they can have a 2 weeks holiday at our resort. It means more jobs for our people, for not just in the medical profession, but what we call the ancillary services too. I mean, Fiji Airways is doing well now. Fiji Airways is now flying to San Francisco, LA, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, the 3-4 cities in Australia. We need more flight attendants, more engineers, more crew, more pilots. It creates jobs. We need more people coming from different countries. We need more taxi drivers, more hotel rooms. You have to think strategically. More ladies to go and clean the bedrooms. All of those things, all put in place. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation. Please, like I said, you can go to the websites. All the figures that I've said, you can go and check that out. All the documentation is there. And there you go, it's all available there. I wish you all the best in your studies and hopefully get your IT lab soon. Thank you. Naga.